Hey everybody, I'm Tim, and today it's time to pick out a home for the best cigars. You're watching Cigars Daily. Hey, get more out of this and all our videos when you join the community on Cigars Daily Plus. And for this video, I've lit up Aganorsa's La Validación Corojo Daily Edition. Because we're Aganorsa strong. Always. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. A humidor is the perfect habitat for a cigar. It's where the cigars are kept and maintained for their best qualities. The leaves are carefully cared for. The humidity and temperature is controlled so that the cigars produce this excellent experience. It's the same thing we do with living things. If you go to the zoo, you can walk by the tiger habitat. There's like some grass probably, there's a tire swing for some reason, and there's a gigantic ball and a little pond the tiger can swim around in. It's made to mimic the natural habitat of the tiger, minus the ball and tire swing. Even when it comes to your home, you have set your home up to be an abundantly oversourced habitat for your pets. Let's face it, they run the roost there. Not only is your whole house the habitat for your pet, but so is your bed and probably your pillow. In fact, they're more in charge of the place than you are. For them, it's like having a subscription to on-demand attention because when they walk up, you have to pet them or you feel bad about it. But when it comes to cigars, you're looking to provide something measurable for what they need. Because a well-maintained humidor, that habitat for your cigars, is going to be a big determiner of the experience that comes out of a cigar. How well does the thing burn? How well does it draw? And how well maintained is that premium cigar flavor profile that the blender intended? So today, I want to dive into some different types of humidors. These days, you've got more options than there have just about ever been for different types, sizes, styles, and varieties of humidors out there. And for people just getting into the world of cigars, it can be hard to know where to start. You kind of have the expectation that there's this sexy wooden desktop humidor. It's going to do everything you want it to do. But will it really? I mean, there's a few other ways to go, and my whole goal today is to take you through sort of what the mainline options are. And I'll tell you this. The people in the Cigars Daily Nation have some of the best experience and the best wisdom in the cigar world that I've seen. And so I'll ask you, if you're an aficionado, drop a comment down below with your best tips and tricks for humidors, style, design, and like what it's made of. Put that down below. And if you're just getting into cigars, you can look down there for some great tips and tricks for maintaining your own humidor. But I'm going to take you through a few of these different ones, and I'm going to give you a criteria and rate what they will do for you with regards to temperature, humidity, and storage capacity. These are sort of the three main things we're looking at. At the same time, those are not the only things that matter to a humidor. There are some things that may be more or less important to you. Price would be one of those things. I'm not going to cover all that in this video. This is more about the pragmatic approach to creating that perfect natural place for your cigars to live a happy and long life. And with no further ado, let's jump right in. The first humidor I want to talk about today is the classic. The good old faithful, the one that everybody looks to and trusts as their first humidor, and that is the wooden desktop humidor. This one happens to say Camacho on it. It's got this little insertable tray. It's adorable. This is kind of the thing that people have come to expect when they first get into cigars. I think it's natural for most people. The first humidor seems like it's going to be one of these. They're also relatively affordable. My first humidor was a wooden desktop humidor. These come with a few pros and cons. The first one is that these things are one of the best looking displays you can get for a cigar. This one's finished in black, but you can get them finished in wood grain. You can get them finished with all kinds of different looks and all kinds of different woods as well. Some of them have designs and inlays on them. It's very nice. Part of the drawback with these bad boys is that they tend these days, as I've said before, to be made of particle board glued together with a Spanish cedar veneer on the inside and Some of them work a little bit better than others. You see, one of the drawbacks of wooden desktop humidors these days, being that they're not made out of whole real wood, is that they don't necessarily maintain humidity as well as you'd want. They're a little bit higher maintenance that way. The benefit is that the wood inside will hold humidity. You can actually moisturize this wood to get a little bit better of an equilibrium. And Spanish cedar on the inside of a humidor is going to give the cigars that sort of nice aromatic environment that you want them to be in. Now, when it comes to my 3 criteria for this video, humidity, temperature, and space, I'm going to start off with humidity, and each of these is on a scale of 1 to 10. But when it comes to these, humidity from 1 to 10 is about a 3. Now that's a very generic marking because truly some of these wooden ones do work better than others, but it seems to be kind of hit or miss. And so you can do better with humidity. In terms of temperature, I'm going to give this one a 5. You see, the difficult thing with a humidor is unless there's an internal control for temperature, eventually it's going to acclimate to the temperature of the room that it's in. So if you keep your house, I don't know, ridiculously warm in the summer because you don't have infinite money for the AC bill, well then this will eventually get warm. The fact that it's made of wood gives it a little bit more resistance to changing in temperature, so it'll hold a little better. That gives it a 5. As far as storage in a desktop humidor, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give this a 4. The benefit of the wooden desktop is that it holds cigars in singles pretty well. You can line up an introductory or beginner collection of cigars pretty easily. It doesn't really have space to store boxes though. If your collection is growing and you find yourself with that first coveted box of cigars, you don't want to take all the cigars out, you love the box, you want to keep it, you've got nowhere to put it inside a wooden desktop. So it gives you some utility. They look handsome on top of a desk, but the reality is at the end of the day, there is some limitations to this. It's just important to understand what they are. Our next contender in the battle for humidor storage is the Acrylic Desktop Humidor. Now I gotta say, I have loved on this thing for a long time, and I still do. I say this often, if I could go back and start over in cigars, I would way rather have one of these than a wooden desktop humidor. And another, by the way, before I go on, this is important. The thing I love about wooden desktop humidors is another thing that I love about these. They are among the most affordable of the humidor solutions. When I grew a collection and I outgrew my first humidor, I got a new humidor. It was a little bigger. It served my needs. And I gave the first one to somebody else, just gave it away. And it made their day. And that was hugely rewarding. And so I see that as a big benefit to some of the smaller desktop stuff while I rip on them for not having enough space. But the acrylic also presents some very interesting upgrades that wooden humidor does not. The most important one being something that the learning aficionado will love. And that is ultimate control over humidity. You see, this thing has got this rubberized seal, and this isn't the only shape and size of these. They come in like rectangles. There's all kinds of different acrylic humidors out there, but this one has this rubberized seal around the lid that once you close the lid makes it airtight. If you use like Boveda packs or one of the like packeted humidification things, you throw that in there. It's already got some Spanish cedar in the bottom, which is like a veneer solution. But you throw your Boveda in there, you've got some Spanish cedar with your cigars. It's basically a set it and forget it humidor. I've had a simple humidification pack inside one of these last for like 6 months without needing to be recharged or replaced or anything like that. I do recommend though using a digital hygrometer so you can see what your humidity is. It's kind of like having a gas gauge in your car. You want to know when you're running out of gas. Now, how does this stack up against the wooden humidor on our scale of 1 to 10? We'll start with humidity. For humidity, I give this an 8 just because it controls that humidity so well. However, there's a bit of a downgrade on temperature. I'm going to give this a 3 because it's so much thinner than that wood. It's going to adjust to the temperature of the room so much more quickly. And on storage, I'm going to give this like a 4 because it's intended to be for that introductory cigar collection. Again, it's not great because you're not going to fit a box of anything in here, even not cigars. Like you could get a box of just no box is going to fit inside an acrylic jar like this. So it doesn't really give you a ton of utility for a growing collection, but for a starting collection, thing works pretty darn good. And then I've got what I think is probably the fastest growing trend for humidors right now, and that is what is fondly referred to in the cigar community as the Tupper door. This is just Tupperware. This is Rubbermaid Tupperware. This might even be the Gladware stuff that I like so much. I think that this is one of the best solutions, especially for a new collection. Here's the truth. Every time I go to Costco, I walk down the aisle and look at the Tupperware that's on sale. I never buy it, but I look at it and I'm like, man, you could store a very interesting collection in this like different sizes and shapes of Tupperware. It's one of the benefits that this stuff has. It's very similar to the acrylic jar, except that you can get a whole set of it at Costco for relatively cheap. This stuff is like, set your humidification pack in it. Again, you can throw a sheet of Spanish cedar in there if you want. You find those at most cigar shops, but then you put your cigars inside and it is, again, set it and forget it. You probably already have one of these in your kitchen at home. Just don't let your wife see where it ended up. But these things, when it comes to humidity, again, this one gets a very high score, just a little bit less than the acrylic. I give this one a 7. Similarly though, it's not going to regulate temperature very well. It's very thin plastic on these, so if it's sitting in a room that's 80 degrees, it's very quickly gonna be 80 degrees. I give that one a 3. But when it comes to storage capacity, this is where Tupperware sort of takes off a little bit because you get the things in sets. They come in many different shapes and sizes. I've seen a lot of people who have created sort of a small city worth of Tupperware humidors where they got 4 or 5 of them. Some of them stand up and hold their Lanceros. Some of them are longer and flatter for the Toros and Robustos. Like, I give these a 6 just because for the same price you can get a lot of wooden humidors, you can get a whole set of these and like kind of create a collection that you can set out as an array. I think it gives you a little more utility to your overall cigar collection and your storage. Now, we've seen a few desktop solutions already, but the truth is a lot of people's collections are more versatile than that. Some people travel quite a bit with their cigars. Other people have rapidly growing collections and need lots of space, but also don't have the benefit of lots of money to spend on a new humidor. And this has made this wildly popular segment of humidors like the case humidor. These typically, Pelican is the brand that I think a lot of people look to, although there are a lot of different brands of humidors out there. This one's called Cigar Caddy. This is a travel humidor. Now, I like the case humidor for a few reasons. They come as small as this. This is a 5 cigar travel humidor. Throw the 6 in there, put your little Bovida in there, close it up, you're on the road. Again, set it and forget it. All you have to worry about is how much you're gonna change your temperature and elevation while you travel. But this thing will give you a few cigars for the road, but hell, even if you are putting together your collection for your house, the case humidor thing has grown so much. Here's just another example of a case humidor that's just a little bit larger. This one says HERF right on the front and on the lid. But this is one of the coolest solutions I've seen that is made to be a humidor. Inside of this thing are 3 sets of shelves that are designed to hold just a ton of cigars. These things have these removable liners that will allow you to set the distance that you're gonna set your cigars apart. So you can separate your Toros from your Robustos or your Maduros from your Connecticut's, or hell, even take one of these right out of here. Easier said than done. Take one right out so that you can actually store boxes inside of this. That is a huge upgrade for a humidor solution. How the hell do you do this? Nope. 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 It's a little tough. I guess once you get that set, you kind of want to leave it where it is. But this thing increases in just about every way that I can think of the capacity and ability to store a cigar collection. This thing bumps up every single metric that I'm using in this video to rate a humidor. So when it comes to humidity control, again, this is like an 8. They close ultra tight. They're designed to hold humidity relatively well. The only thing to consider is that in a much larger one, you're going to need a lot more humidity. Of course, if you've got several hundred cigars, and I think this one probably holds 300 or 400 cigars, you're gonna need a lot of humidity to get control. There's also no way to see inside of it. And so if you've got a digital hygrometer, maybe a Bluetooth one that Bluetooths to your phone will do a little bit better. But overall, this gives me an 8 on humidity. On temperature, this is a 6 because unlike those Tupperware and acrylics, it's much thicker on the outside. It's gonna hold its internal temperature temperature a little bit better, although over time it will adjust to the room's temperature. And on that magical storage capacity, this one gives me an 8 again, just because of the huge versatility. You can get the one you want in exactly the size you want, from 5 cigars to 400 cigars, and everywhere in between. You find the size that you intend to grow your collection to, and you can just plan for that. This thing is like the utilitarian way to store cigars. It's not as sexy as a desktop humidor, but they're functional as all get out. And last but most certainly not least is the humidor that is considered to be the humidor of all humidors these days, and that is the electric or thermoelectric refrigerated humidor. This one right here is a generic, I have no idea what brand this thing is, but if you want to learn more about electric humidors, I have reviewed on this channel just about everyone from every brand that there is. Among cigar aficionados, these are considered to be like the top tier of cigar storage. I think of them largely that way because of the overwhelming benefits that you get from them. The first thing you get is a refrigerator door on them, like a drink fridge that you would have in your dormitory in college. It's a rubberized seal that goes all the way around the door, and much like the acrylic jar humidor, gives it an airtight seal. So it's sort of set it and forget it. If you're using packs or even a jar of distilled water, it will last significantly longer inside of this, depending on how often you open the thing. The real benefit here, though, is temperature control. Plug one of these in, turn it on, set the temperature, and it will maintain it for you. Some of these heat and cool. So if you live somewhere that's like super cold in the winter, you're going to want one that will heat up a little bit because your house will get colder than you want it to be. But certainly the ability to set the thing at 70 degrees and have all your cigars stay at that perfect 70 degrees while your family puts on layers and takes off layers and goes out and like lays out there naked because it's too hot and then covers up with a ton of blankets because it's freezing cold. At least your cigars are well taken care of. These things also typically come in a little bit larger sizes. So sort of the beginning, I think, size for these is around 100 cigars, and they go up to thousands of cigars depending on the size that you get. So as far as my ratings on these go, I rate these at a 9. Once you get them dialed in, they should maintain humidity relatively well for you. A couple of little caveats to note though. Sometimes you got to fuss with them a little bit to get the humidity where you want. I've talked with more than a few people who have gotten them. They put a 69% humidification pack and the thing won't go above 65%. Or the humidity for whatever reason seems to run a little bit high. You kind of have to tinker with it to get it just right. Sometimes you increase the percentage of humidity on your humidification pack or that dish of distilled water. You take it out, remove it, add more water, or put a sponge. There's different things you can do, but once you get it dialed in, and that's the point, dialing it in, they stay unbelievably consistent and they work for a long time. Personally, I've had a tremendous amount of success with these. When it comes to temperature control, this is the only thing that for me gets a 10. It's a 10 out of 10. The thing controls the temperature for you. Your cigars stay pretty consistent within 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit, like all the time. As long as there's power, you're gonna have good temperature on your cigars. For storage capacity on these though, I'm giving this a 6. And this one gets a lower storage capacity rating for me for one reason. With all of the other humidors we've talked about here, you have the capacity to get something new relatively easily. The desktop, the Tupperware, the case, I mean, even the acrylic jar, all of those things are pretty affordable. So if a cigar collection outgrows the dang thing, you go get something else. You give the friend a humidor that you were grown out of, they grow into their shell, you get a bigger shell. It's a beautiful circle of life. But with these things, they're a little pricier. Hell, they're the price of a small refrigerator because that's what they are. And so if you outgrow this one, you might find yourself adding a second one and looking for bigger ones of these. They tend to get pretty pricey pretty quick. It is, for a lot of cigar aficionados, it does sort of seem to be presented as the Cadillac or the Rolls Royce of cigar storage. But again, That's up to the end user. Now that's a lot of information about humidors, but the question you've really got to ask yourself, especially if just starting out in the cigar world, is which one of those is like the most appealing? Which one has the features that excite you the most, or even just the look and feel that feels like your type of thing? For some people, a giant case is going to fit perfectly with all of your other giant cases for the things that you love. For other people, a refrigerated humidor may be the only way to go. For some of you, putting a box of cigars on your desk where you work will give you that warm fuzzy. I will tell you that for me, even though I bash on the wooden humidor a lot, my first one was a wooden humidor, and I would put it on my desk. And I loved having a wooden box humidor on my desk full of cigars, because even though when I first graduated from college and was like a pastor in a church, I was poor. I was like straight up poor. Having a humidor filled with cigars made me feel like a rich man. And I enjoyed that. And I loved giving it to my friend when I got the next bigger one. And so everybody's going to have a different thing. That's why there's so many different types of humidors out there these days. And I'll ask you now, put it down below. Which one of these seems the most appealing? And again, if you've got lots of experience with humidor storage, then let us know down below. What's worked out the best? What should we avoid? We can't wait to hear more from you about that. And get more out of this video when you join the community on Cigars Daily Plus. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Tim signing off for Cigars Daily, and I will see you in the comments.